Elden Ring Nightreign is shocking the gaming industry, and not necessarily in the way we were all expecting. After months of hype, speculation, and anticipation, the game finally dropped this past weekend, and it's already sparking some serious conversation in the gaming space. As with most high profile releases these days, the reviews are mixed and the opinions about it are very loud, and the expectations are all over the place when it comes to the community. But what's different here is how Nightreign is being received, not just as a new game, but as a new chapter in one of the most celebrated universes in modern gaming. Now, if you haven't played it yet, Nightreign lets players team up in squads of up to 3 and compete in a race to defeat the Night Lord. It's a cool concept. It's more competitive than Elden Ring, more action focused in certain areas, and definitely designed with replayability in mind. And speaking from personal experience, I've actually really enjoyed this game so far. The core loop of hunting down and killing all the Night Lords is honestly very addictive. It pulls you in quickly, and when it clicks, it really starts to click. There's a tension that builds as you explore the map, fight enemies, and race against time. It feels fresh, but that does not mean that the game is perfect. It's honestly far from it. There are definitely some issues here that are hard to ignore. One of the biggest points of criticism I've seen floating around, and it's honestly a very valid one, is that Nightreign wasn't directed by Miyazaki. FromSoftware was upfront about this early on. This was a passion project led by Adrian and your team, their first shot at a major release, and honestly, you can feel that difference while playing the game. Not necessarily in a bad way, but in a way that makes it clear this isn't trying to be Elden Ring 2 or a true extension of the Elden Ring experience. And that's where the real conversation starts. Should players be judging a game solely by the title it carries or by the team that's actually making it instead? Just because it says Elden Ring in the name doesn't mean it's going to deliver the same experience, and that expectation alone might be setting the game up for unfair criticism. So in today's video, we're going to break it all down: what Nightreign does right, where it stumbles, and why this release might be more important than people actually realize. And not just for Elden Ring fans, but for the future of FromSoftware and Souls-like games as well. So this weekend, while scrolling through Twitter, I kept seeing the same complaint pop up over and over, and honestly, I get it. A lot of players are frustrated with how Elden Ring Nightreign forces them into 3-player squads. Now, on paper, that sounds like a fun cooperative experience, a chance to strategize, coordinate, and take down massive bosses with your friends. But the reality for a lot of people is very different. Most players either don't have 2 friends who are into the style of game, or they're being matched with randoms who just don't communicate, grief, or go off and do their own thing. And in a game like this, where every move counts and timing is everything, that experience can fall apart really fast. Now, yes, there is a solo mode, but here's the thing: it just doesn't feel fully baked at the moment. The version we got at launch for solo players is missing key features that make it viable as a long-term option. There's no real scaling that makes the experience feel balanced, and certain mechanics that are designed around teamwork just don't really translate well when you're playing alone. It almost feels like solo play was an afterthought, like they added it out of obligation, not because it was a core part of the game's vision. And that's honestly disappointing to hear, especially for players who fell in love with Elden Ring, specifically because of how deeply personal and solitary that journey could be. And what's interesting is that despite all of this, despite the criticisms and the early backlash, Nightreign didn't launch with a ton of hype, and that caught me off guard. We're talking about a follow-up to Elden Ring, a game that sold over 20 million copies, won Game of the Year, and became a full-on pop cultural moment. People who don't even play games know what Elden Ring is. And so far, Nightreign to release with such a quiet rollout and relatively muted buzz, that says a lot about this direction. Whether it was a lack of marketing or a deliberate move to manage expectations, it's surprising. And maybe a sign that even FromSoftware knew this wasn't going to be that same kind of launch. The marketing was solid, the trailers looked good, the concept sounded intriguing, but something just didn't click on a massive scale. And maybe that's because deep down fans sensed that this wasn't the same team, the same energy, or the same level of polish that made Elden Ring what it was. Maybe it's a shift to multiplayer, the absence of Miyazaki's influence, or just the fatigue with live service elements creeping into more and more games. But keep in mind that this game is not a live service game. That was already confirmed from the development team. Whatever the specific reason may be, the launch of Nightreign feels strange. Not bad, not broken, just strangely quiet for a title with this kind of legacy behind it. And that makes me wonder, what exactly is this game supposed to be? Is it a new direction for the franchise, or is it just an experimental spin-off? Is it meant to stand on its own, or is it testing the water for something bigger in the future? That question is still hanging in the air, but if we're judging by the numbers alone, the launch was undeniably a success. Despite the skepticism leading up to the release of Nightreign, it exploded out of the gate. At the time that I'm recording this, it's sitting at one of the top concurrent games on Steam. A lot of people doubted that it would even break 100,000 concurrent players, which, to be fair, 100,000 concurrent players would still be a very, very good launch for a game, but it actually ended up hitting over 300,000 players within the first 2 hours of launch. That's huge. No matter how you feel about the game's structure, the direction, or the creative choices behind the scene, those numbers prove that people are still deeply interested in the universe of Elden Ring. And honestly, I'm one of them. Here's the thing, I never played the original Elden Ring game. I know that's shocking, especially with how important that game has been to pop culture. I played other Souls-like games, but I never made the leap into that world. And with that, it was still one of the most important games that has came out. I've studied videos about the world of Elden Ring. So when Nightreign came along with a more structured squad-based format, I figured this could be the right entry point for me. I love fast-paced games. I've started to appreciate the deliberate challenge and rhythm of Souls likes over the past year, and this seemed like a good way to ease into that larger world of Elden Ring without jumping in blind. And now, after spending time with Nightreign, I'm seriously considering going back to the original game and maybe even grabbing the DLC as well. It's made me curious in the best way, and that, if nothing else, is a win for From Software. But that doesn't mean everything's perfect. Launch weekend also surfaced some real concerns about the long-term potential of this game. One of the biggest talking points in the community has been the lack of randomness or surprise during runs. The environments and boss placements are just too predictable right now. There's not enough dynamic variety to keep each match feeling fresh, which is something you need to have if you're designing a game around replayability. Players want chaos. They want something unexpected that force them to adapt on the fly. They want to try new builds or develop on the fly strategies. And right now, Nightreign just doesn't have enough of that to keep people coming back week after week. So yeah, the initial launch was very, very strong. It was stronger than expected for most people. But can it stay that strong? Can From Software build on this momentum and shape Nightreign to something that stands on its own? Or is it going to be a short-lived curiosity that disappears after a month? Now, in this last section of this video, I wanted to take a moment to talk about some of the areas where Elden Ring Nightreign could really improve. And let me be clear, I've been having a great time with the game so far. It's fast, it's chaotic, and there's something really satisfying about tackling these raids with your squad, but that doesn't mean it's perfect. There are a few things that, in my opinion, are holding the game back from being truly special, and if From Software is serious about the long-term health of this game, these are the things they're going to need to address sooner rather than later. First, let's talk about the relic system. This is something that's supposed to be one of the main incentives of running raids and progressing throughout the game. After each run, you can acquire relics that provide certain buffs or perks, but the issue is most of them feel kind of useless at this point. And look, I'll admit it, I'm not an Elden Ring lord. I'm still learning how the deeper systems in these games actually work. And I totally get that there's probably more going on under the hood than I realize at this moment. But if you're a new player like me or someone coming into the franchise for the first time, a lot of these relics just feel like filler. You equip one and it might boost your stamina or damage slightly, but the difference is so minimal that it doesn't change the way you end up playing the game. At that point, what's the incentive to keep grinding for them? And that ties into the larger issue with progression and reward structure. In a game like this, where you're running the same content over and over, the loot has to feel meaningful. Right now, it kind of doesn't. I'm not saying the game needs to shower us with legendary drops every run, but there has to be a better sense of progression, like I'm actually building towards something special. That's what keeps people hooked. That's what gets players to log in night after night. And as of right now, Nightreign has the gameplay loop, but the actual rewards need some serious tuning. And another thing that's been frustrating is the revive mechanic. During boss fights, especially when you're facing two bosses at once, which happens every now and then, trying to revive a down teammate is basically a death sentence. The animation just takes way too long, and unless your teammate is somehow in a safe pocket of the area, you're almost guaranteed to get clapped while trying to bring them back into the fight. It feels punishing in a way that just isn't fun, like you're being discouraged from helping out your squad, and that's a problem in a game that's literally built around teamwork. There needs to be a more streamlined way or creative way to handle revives in the future. Maybe a consumable that you can equip or a relic that gives you a temporary revive boost, something to make that mechanic feel a lot less clunky and more strategic. But outside of those issues, I've been really enjoying my time with Nightreign so far. It's exciting to explore the Elden Ring universe in a totally different format, especially with the team. There's a ton of potential here with this game. You can feel the ambition, and you can tell that From Software wanted to experiment with something new. And while it doesn't always land perfectly, it's refreshing to see a studio take risks, even when the results are mixed. So that's where I'll leave it. Nightreign isn't perfect, but it's a solid foundation, and with the right updates, it could become something really special. But what do you think? Are you playing Nightreign? And if so, how are you feeling about it so far? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. I'd love to hear your experiences.